I love that song. We are back on Taking Care of Business on Kern Radio Newstalk 1180. Our in-studio guest is Michael Stern, author of I Had a Ball, My Relationship with Lucille Ball.
Michael, I found out something today that I did not even know. I've watched several Lucy shows, even though I'm not a big fan personally. My wife loves her, but I'm not a big fan. But Desi Arnaz Jr., Little Ricky, are not the same person.
That's right. Keith Thibodeau played Little Ricky. Desi Arnaz Jr. was their son in real life. And they're about the same age. So wherever Desi Jr. was and Keith Thibodeau, they would always have to discuss it with, no, I'm not Little Ricky. No, I'm not Little Ricky. That's the way Desi Arnaz lived the first 15 years of his life. No, I'm not Little Ricky. Even to this day, he's not Little Ricky.
Wow.
And they're great friends still.
And what does Keith do now?
Keith he works with his wife, Kathy. They have a ballet company, and he's the director, and they go throughout the world with the ballet company. And also, Desi Arnaz Jr., his wife is also with a ballet company. So they both, their wives knew each other before they married each other's. It's amazing. It's a small world.
Yeah, and what does Desi Arnaz Jr. do today?
Well, he basically runs the ballet company or the director in Boulder, Nevada.
Wow.
They have a dance studio and theater, and that's what he does.
Then you met Lucy's first husband, Desi Arnaz, correct?
I met him a couple times, and what a nice man. Oh, my gosh. Ricky Ricardo, Desi Arnaz.
I've heard a lot of rumors about him.
And?
Just curious if they were true. He's quite the ladies' man.
I've heard that. I was not around at that time.
That's true.
You know what? I don't know. The answer is I'm sure it might have happened, but I wasn't there.
Oh.
You know what? It's my life with Lucy.
Right. Now, it's not an expose book.
Right.
It's you're just talking about the relationship.
Well, I'm interested in Lucy and Desi also because I used to watch the show. Remember, I'm a little older than you guys.
That's
but
true.
You saw it in the first run?
Yeah, I saw the first run. Did Desi actually have a band?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And he also performed, I think, with Bob Hope.
Yeah. He played at the Cabana in New York.
In New York, yeah. I mean, he traveled with his band for years.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely.
Now, many of the Lucy shows were funny. There were a lot of funny parts in the Lucy shows. Did she write those shows? Did Desi write? Did they have writers, or how was it?
They had writers. Bob Carroll and Madeline Davis were the first two writers with Jess Oppenheimer, who also created the show. And they did 179 half-hour shows. And the first 5 years, it was just the three of them that wrote the shows, Bob, Madeline, and Jess. And then they hired 2 extra writers. But now, these days, if you watch any of the credits on any TV show, there's about 11 to 15 writers for a half-hour show.
Mm-hmm. We're having a conversation with Michael Stern in studio, the author of I Had a Ball, My Relationship with Lucille Ball.
Yeah, Lucy was really an interesting character, and you mentioned during the break that she really, or on air earlier, she really wasn't humorous outside of the show. She was very serious.
Right, and also before she even did I Love Lucy, she was a dramatic actress. I mean, that's what she wanted to be, a dramatic actress, but she started getting these roles like a Lucy Ricardo, and that's where she got her niche. And she didn't want to leave that niche once she got it.
Mm-hmm. Can't blame her.
You know, it was interesting, trying to find some YouTube stuff for her. So much of her stuff was sight gags. I mean, she was hilarious, which doesn't really lend itself for radio as well. You got to do something as a fan that, had to be really, really special for you. She invited you over to watch a Lucy marathon.
Right. It was on her birthday. In L.A., they would run on her birthday approximately 14 hours worth of Lucy shows.
Mm-hmm.
And she invited me over around 10 o'clock in the morning, and we went into her den and we watched nothing but I Love Lucy shows together. And sometimes she would watch more Vivian Vance and William Frawley and Desi Arnaz. She wouldn't really watch herself, or sometimes she would say, I have no idea what this show is. No clue whatsoever. And then she would know as soon as she walked through the door, it's the grape stomping episode or vitamin and vitamin. Those she knew. But some others, she was lost. Like, I don't remember this. And then she would laugh. There was one episode, they're on their way from New York to California, and they're in the car and everything. And Vivian Vance walks out of the bathroom with toothpaste all over her face. And Lucy got so upset with that because they had cut out the scene prior to it. And she was going to call the station and go, how dare you to cut out that scene? No one knows what's happening now. So some shows she knew by heart, and some, no clue.
Now, you have also the Lucy fan club, right?
There is a Lucy fan club. There's a Lucy Desi Center in Jamestown, New York, which houses everything Lucy and Desi. And every year they have a couple festivals. Every year there's one. This year, August 3rd through the 7th, Joan Rivers is going to be performing her show. Hopefully I'll be there signing my book. Or you could also go to thelucyfan.com for a book. But there's a lot of things at the center, and it's beautiful. It's a nice tribute to Lucille Ball.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of Joan Rivers, it just reminded me of something. When I was looking on YouTube, there was a show, it was one of Joan Rivers' early shows, where she had Nancy Reagan on, backed by Lucille Ball.
That's right.
Wow.
Right. It was October. Lucille Ball was there to promote her series called Life with Lucy. It was her show that after she retired for 12 years of being on television, she came back for another series. It didn't do too well, which was sad because it was a welcome relief to have Lucy back on TV. We needed Lucy back on TV. And Nancy Reagan was the first guest, and she was the first lady at that time. And I was in Lucy's dressing room. We were talking. There was a knock on the door, and somebody from Nancy Reagan's camp came to her and go, Miss Ball, Mrs. Reagan would like to see you now. And Lucy, without missing a beat, said, okay, bring her in. And it was like, the lady was like going, how do I tell Lucille Ball that I got to get you to Nancy Reagan? Lucy knew what she knew. So I got to go with with Lucy and meet Nancy Reagan. They had been friends for 100 years.
Okay, so you could tell during the interview how
she was. But Nancy Reagan was such a nice lady. Nice lady.
Yeah, good.
Yeah. Tiny little lady.
Yeah. Well, I don't. You and I politically do not agree. Your dad and I used to argue.
I was
politics.
right. You're wrong. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Your dad and I used to argue politics all the time. But anyways, I don't know if you've ever been to the Reagan Museum.
Yes, I have.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yep.
Well, you see her dresses in there, and they are. You're right. They're really tiny. She's a small lady.
Very small lady.
Now,
and very nice. I met her a couple times after that. And one time we were talking. I said, I don't know if you remember me, but I met you a few times with Lucille Ball. She goes, oh yes. And she turns around and goes, my husband Ronnie. And it's like, yes, I've heard of who he is.
Yeah, I know this is after he was president.
After he was president, yeah. Yeah, my husband Ronnie.
Yeah, not the president. It's my husband Ronnie.
Yeah.
Now you've met several presidents and their wives over the years.
I have met people. I went to Bob Hope's 90th birthday party for NBC, and I was sitting arm in arm next to Betty Ford and Gerald Ford. There was a couple of governors at my table. It was I've got to meet a lot of people through Lucy. Big celebrities like John Wayne. I actually went to the urinal right next to John Wayne. Milton Berle, Cary Grant.
You went to the urinal next to John Wayne.
Next to John Wayne.
Let's move on.
You talk about that in the book where you were wondering about asking for his autograph and decided not to.
Yeah, you know what?
Wise decision.
Yeah, I used to collect autographs, and I realized early on there's a good place and a bad place. And
standing at a urinal is not a good place.
Not a good place, yeah. Big star.
But you had mentioned that you and I talked about Jimmy Carter. You actually met Jimmy Carter as well?
Met Jimmy Carter. I went to a book signing, and I waited in line, and he was so nice. I mean, just, they're politicians, but they're really nice. And I remember he wasn't personalizing. And I bought like a dozen books, and the person next to him said, no, he's not personalizing. And I said, oh, can't he make it to Mike? And he wrote, to Mike, but I can't personalize it. And he wrote, to Mike, can't personalize it, Jimmy Carter. Yeah.
Can't personalize it, meaning he's not supposed to autograph.
Right, because there were probably about 2,000 people in line for him. And he was able to look up at you, talk to you like there was no one else in line. But he signed and was very nice. Not like another book signing I once went to of another celebrity, and I'm not sure if it's in there, but most of them are very nice at book signings.
Well, go ahead.
I was just going to say, Mike, going through your book, because I do like the pictures, I can't believe the number of people that you have met and had pictures taken with. Is this all because of your relationship with Lucy?
Some of them, yes. Some of them, no. Like Carol Burnett, extremely good friends with Lucy. And I got to meet her 24 times with Lucy, or I went to the Carol Burnett show a few times, or Carol Burnett had another series in the 80s, or 90s even, Carol and Company, and I would go all the time. But Carol Burnett, I saw her a couple weeks ago, and it was like, hello, Michael, how are you? Or Betty White. These were friends of, Lucy. Not that I at their house all the time, but wherever, but they're always extremely nice to me, and they know who I am, and now we're friends.
Mm-hmm. That's incredible. I want to pick up with Betty White in a minute when we come back, okay? We are talking to we're talking to Michael Stern, author of I Had a Ball, My Relationship with Lucille Ball, on Taking Care of Business. We'll be back in a minute on Kern Radio Newstalk 1180.